What's up, everyone? Shane Santacroce here, and as always, we're here to make it happen. We're in studio today with JB and the Doc. We have some amazing things to talk about today. We're about to launch a new platform for everybody to kind of take a next step in their level of success, and I'm excited to talk about that. You guys know JB and Doc. We've done some stuff together in the past before. You guys, we've had them on our podcast before. So really excited to have them back and talk about these opportunities for you guys to get involved. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, all those wonderful things. Great for the YouTube algorithm, and we love the support. So, guys, welcome back, man. How we doing?
Thanks for having us, Shane. Nice to be back, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So over time we started talking about doing something together, and we've done some events together. And before you know it, we started talking about putting together an actual course. And for you guys know, obviously I have courses out. They have courses out as well. And it's really all about success, right? And how to become successful or elevate your level of success that you're currently at. And we all have very different backgrounds, which we're going to talk a little bit about today and how it all makes sense when it comes together. Obviously, the three of us have not only very different backgrounds, in essence, very different lifestyles now as well, and different professions, right? So bringing this all together in a synergistic way to offer to you guys as an opportunity to really cultivate this success that we're going to discuss in the realm of awareness, I think is really exciting. So, Josh, tell everybody who you are again. Let's let everybody know a little more introduction from both of you, and then we'll go from there.
Shane, appreciate it. And great to see everybody again. Really happy to be here. JB, Josh Blum, as many of you know already, my background, I was a former Fortune 50 sales executive. I spent over a decade working with a Fortune 50 company in financial services. Master presenter, I've given thousands of presentations, continuing education, worked with some of the best professionals out there. A huge emphasis on sales, consultative sales especially. And today, work very closely with my partner, the one and only Dr. Dre. He's waiting to get that name cleared up. In JB and the Doctor and Evolved Performance and Development, which is really our coaching and consulting business to help people improve themselves, specifically soft skills, the people skills.
Mr. Doc, the one and only.
So I'm Dr. Andre Caruso. I'm a clinical psychologist by trade, and I am the other half of JB and the Doctor. He's the how, I'm the why. So I like to bring in the behavioral, the mindset aspect to it, really get people to that next level.
Great. So, guys, like I said, everybody knows we've done some events together, very, very successful events. Everybody's loved them. And I still get questions like, hey, when are you guys all going to come together and do something again? And ultimately, guys, the reason why we talked about doing something is the feedback that we received on their podcast and them on mine, and the events that we've done has been extremely positive. So we really wanted to put something in place that allowed you guys to get involved, not necessarily just our events, but involved in a way that you got all three of us. And that's where we kind of just decided, hey, let's just put together a course and put it out there. And the good thing about this course is, when you're building something like this, a lot of people don't understand the complexity of your target audience, right? What is that demographic? Is it younger? Is it older? Is it male, female? Is it a combination of everything in between? Where is that? And, correct me if I'm wrong, but there really isn't a box in this program, right? You really can be at any point in your life. You can be, any race, any color, you name it. It doesn't, we're not putting a box around this program. So if you're 18, if you're 80, there's an opportunity to learn something very valuable from this program, right? So let's talk a little bit about success through awareness, right? Where does this actually come from? Why does it make sense? We're going to touch on a little bit of some of the modules that you guys can expect from this, all right? And Doc, I want to start with you. JB and I both have sales experience, marketing experience, etc., business related. And with the Doc involved, guys, there's a whole different spin to anything I've done before. I'm not sure about you, Josh, but I know for me, I've never had that aspect. Now, I've done my own research. I'm certainly not a doctor, a clinician, a therapist, even though some of you guys use me as one now and again, right? Certainly not my thing. But now having this is very interesting, right? Because it's going to provide a different level of, psychology really behind what we're offering to people. So talk a little bit about why, your involvement with all of this and why awareness is so important in success.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be part of the team. I think awareness is one of those most underrated aspects of life and how we get through the day. If you think about driving on the road, if you think about sitting in a restaurant, seeing people around you, today being out and about, awareness is so key just in your environment. Um, and one of the areas that I found it very useful for me, for those of you don't know, I spent a few decades in the hospitality field prior to becoming a doctor of psychology. And that served my strength a lot to be able to put out fires before they happened, to know when the staff was going to have an issue, know when the kitchen was going to have an issue, to be able to put myself in that position. I always like to say my two biggest strengths are awareness and adaptation. And using those strengths together have served me very well. And I see the same thing that I work with people both in the therapy world and in the coaching world. Once they get that awareness of not only themselves and then the others around them, but more importantly themselves, right? Knowing where your limitations are, knowing where your strengths are. So awareness has a very broad definition, and those are all the areas that we're going to try to help with.
Yeah, and you're right. Again, self-awareness, which is going to be touched on in one of these modules. I don't think I was fully self-aware. I'm not even sure if I really still am, right, at this point in my life. But to even start to understand what there was, I was probably in my late 30s when I really started to understand what it meant to be self-aware. And it's something you have to work on continuously because so many things happen in life, so many variations of paths you can and cannot take. And, understanding those limitations, understanding your capabilities, understanding your value, which I think is a big problem today, in especially in that 18 to 30 demographic, understanding your value. It's one of the most important things I try to explain to people when I talk about self-awareness, that what is your value? And they a lot of times look at me and they take it as I'm trying to be disrespectful, right? So let's say I'll give you an example. Somebody wanted to work with me recently. And I said, okay, well, what is your value? Like, what do you bring to the table? Because they didn't want to invest money. They wanted to put in some sweat equity. I said, okay, no problem. What is your values? Well, I'm bilingual. I said, okay, well, I'm going to show you something. I pulled up my phone and I said, I have two gentlemen from Mexico right now working for me on a project in Cape Coral. I said, now, I understand a little bit of Spanish, but you see this app on my phone? This is how we've been communicating for 2 months. So that's not a value anymore, right? So what is your value? And she became extremely upset and irate, as if I was degrading her in some capacity, just trying to get from her, hey, well, what are you actually bringing to the table? And I ask that question so often, and I think that has a lot to do with self-awareness. Really, what is your value? What are you bringing to the table, whether it's in a relationship, friendship, romantically, whether it's a business relationship, just everything. Where's your value? And what are your limitations? When is enough enough? What is your, bandwidth for taking on new projects, for having new people in your life, for, really where is enough for you? And some people say, oh, never enough is enough. That's just not reality. You're going to burn yourself out, right? So anyway, it is definitely, I think those two things that you said are so key in fundamentals. Understand your capabilities and your limitations. And if you can find your way in that middle ground, I think you're going to find yourself to be very, very successful, right? Josh, let's talk about some of the other things that we need to be aware of. Let's talk about financial awareness, right? That's a big thing. And I think, one good thing, guys, to understand why we're doing this is that you have three people here, professionals, to lean on for different areas. That doesn't mean I can't talk to you about certain things that the doc's going to talk about or certain things that JB's going to talk about, nor could they not talk about certain things I'm going to address. But we're really going to focus on specific areas so you have a go-to and you have different perspectives as well. So, JB, tell us a little bit about financial awareness and why it's so important.
Yeah, financial awareness is one of these things, Shane, where we're just not exposed to it the way we really ought to be. When you look at the school curriculum, when you look at what we learn, throughout even secondary education, when you get to the college level, rarely do we really learn about personal finance in the way that we should. Most people don't really have a foundation in business finance either. And so it's not even an awareness. It's almost, I don't know what I don't know when it comes to finances for a lot of individuals. So there's very little awareness there. And it's disturbing because money's freedom.
Yes, absolutely.
If we don't have money, we don't have freedom. And so in order to get there, we really need to be efficient with our money. We need to be effective. We need to stop putting our heads in the sand, which is what so many people choose to do. They'd rather not know than know. And incredibly dangerous if you really want to be successful, which is the driver behind
Of
everything we're
course.
talking about. Financial awareness is got to be a priority. It just has to be.
You know what's interesting you said is they just don't want to know. It just kind of struck to me like, why would somebody not want to know that? But because it's difficult, right? Being responsible and making the right choices is not necessarily easy. So a lot of these guys out here and girls and making all this money and they're young and they want to go to the club, they want to buy a nice fancy car and like to do other things. They know that's not the responsible financial decision to make. And that's, I think, where financial awareness comes in. Like understanding that you can do all that stuff at some point in your life if you really, really want to. But if you really understand what you should be doing with your money, it's a completely different game to play, right? Number one. Number two, you're right. I wasn't taught anything about money. Right? I lived in my mom's car when I was 12. So when I started making real money, I literally did. If you had a list of 100 things that you should not do when you make money, I checked off every one of them.
I believe
Like
it.
unbelievably, at multiple times in some cases. So it took me, again, a long time to learn these lessons the hard way and the very expensive way as well. I did, DeSantis just signed something now in Florida where you have to take a financial class before you can graduate high school, which I think is phenomenal. And the fact that this is not something that is done, nationwide is beyond me. But the lack of financial literacy, awareness, and education that somebody graduating high school has at this point, it's just, I guess it's hard to really put into words unless you actually have some level of financial literacy and awareness, right? Because once you get to that level, you look back, and I can look back now and look at all the mistakes I made. But back then, I would have never thought I was doing anything wrong. I was enjoying my life. So let's talk about some other things that I want to kind of touch on here that might be a little bit longer conversation. When we talk about some of the other areas of awareness that we're going to be discussing in this, that I think is fundamentally important, let's talk about community awareness. That's going to be a big one, social awareness. We have a lot of good modules in here, guys, that are going to take you through an every single day application, right? We talked about adaptability and applying those things you learn. So this is what's really important here is to understand that what we're going to be talking about are things that you can apply to your daily life to make changes and to level up in your success. So let's talk about community awareness and the differences between community awareness versus social awareness. All right, Doc, you wanna touch in on that one a little bit?
So when you hear community and you hear social, they sound very similar, right? They have that same kind of concept, and there is some overlap in some aspects because when you're thinking social, it is really about engaging. It's about interacting with people. It isn't doing it in a way that you're again aware of where yourself is and where your limitations are, and how you know these people, how you can interact with them in a way. So I know we try to be careful on some of the things we say, and I'm running through that in my head too, because
Yeah,
some of the diversity issues too, right?
Yeah.
And we're in a big part of cancel culture.
Yeah.
It's very popular right now. We're also talking about a state that is afraid of wokeness and looks at that as a negative thing in a lot of ways. Where I say more than one thing can be true. There could be some negative aspects to being woke, and could be some very benefits to it. Again, depending on how you're using that. And that's where you really want to look at your social awareness, how you're interacting with that. Now, community awareness is more of a how you interact with your community. How are you giving back? How are you helping? Just clicking on or sharing on social media about something that's happening is a good start, but it's probably not enough to actually help your community, right? So how can you actually get engaged with your community? Can you work with nonprofits? Can you donate some time? How can you give back? That's where we look when we look at community awareness. And I think those two things are very important to build together, right? So if you have that good social awareness and how you're handling yourself, it gives you a leg up when you're also working with your community. You'll get invited to do more things as well.
Yeah, and we talk about obviously wokeness right now is a very, very hot topic, and you got to be very careful with what you say because now the cancel culture is canceling themselves as well. They're not even canceling people that they don't agree with. They're canceling people that they absolutely do agree with now. I don't know what's happening here, but I have always believed and always pushed the idea that you don't necessarily have to agree with someone to understand how they feel and where they're coming from. And that's really that fundamental place where agreements begin, right? Is just understanding how the other person feels. You may not necessarily live the same lifestyle. You may not, move your own personal beliefs in that direction. But at least if you understand them, there's an area of peace that you guys can live in, as opposed to this: I just hate you, unfriend me, unblock me, don't talk to me, you're the worst of the worst. It's like such an extreme now. It doesn't matter what side you're on. If you can't come to some type of agreement, you're just a worst type person on the opposite side, right? It's like, oh, I don't like you a little bit. No, I just hate you and hope you're dead. It's really, really weird these days. But back to community and social, they do overlap, quite a bit. But, when we talk about community, you're talking about your community, the people you can reach out and touch every single day, make a difference, make change. And I'm so glad you brought up, not just making a post. It's great to be vocal. It's great to get out there and let people know you care. But just talking about things is going to do nothing, right? You have to take action and start taking some self-accountability, which also goes to self-awareness. It's easy to say, hey, I think you should do this. Well, then why aren't you doing that, right? If you're telling me that I should do that, great. But why aren't you also doing it? Because if we both do it and we both encourage another person and another person, now you're effectively changing your community. So don't just be about the talk, be about the action. Apply what you're learning. If you have beliefs, don't be afraid to talk to people about it. Don't just make a post and blast them. Try to explain your ideas. Try to understand their ideas. Because at the end of the day, when you really look at everybody's perspective within your community and on the social spectrum, most people at their core agree with things. We don't want bad things to happen to people. Right? That's how, we want prosperity. We want equality. We want all these things. How do we get there? And that's really where the argument comes in. Well, I think we should go path A, and I think I should go path B. Well, you're wrong, and so are you, right? And that's where the real problems come into play. So, JB, I want you to touch base a little bit, or touch, on the topic a little bit about, community and social awareness and what your perspective is on that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Shane. So I look at it this way. When we are envisioning success, and success is different for all of us, but we need a vision. We need a dream out there. And it starts with self, and then it goes to the people directly around us, and then it goes to the community at large. And that's how we really achieve success. It's not just in here. It's in this room, and then it's in the rooms around us and all the buildings around us and the cities around us and so on and so forth. So if we want to be successful, it starts with ourselves and self-awareness, but then it goes to the social level, which is the next level of the people around us, and then it expands into the community. And so from my perspective, success needs to get to that community level. We start at our foundation, which is ourselves. We make sure we have that locked in. And then we work with the people around us to make sure that we're giving back and we're starting to make that change that you spoke to. And that's how we impact the entire community. Now, what's interesting, Shane, is you brought it back to, hey, I don't necessarily need to agree with you with how you do things or what's important to you when it comes to success, but I need to be able to understand it. And I need to be able to, where we use all the time, empathy. I need to be able to have empathy. And that is the lubricant, right? That's what gets me from in here, in myself, to the people around me, and then to the people around them. It's all about empathy.
Yeah, and we all feel like we're walking on eggshells, and I can, pretty much assure everybody watching that nobody in this room wants anything bad for anybody. Period. Right? And again, you guys might not agree with everything we all have to say through this process, but if we empathy really is the ideal word, right? Because empathy in life is that, how do I say this? Again, be very, very careful on how I say this, right?
I use lubricant. Can you do better?
I know that. I almost went with it. I almost followed you up on that. No, but but having empathy, and let's just say you disagree with somebody and you feel something is in their best interest. Like for me, when I'm dealing with somebody, I have the understanding that I know that I'm going to do the best I can possibly do, right? And I know that if you decide to work with someone else in specific industries or projects or whatever, I know that my decisions personally that I make for my clients, I believe are in their best interest. I'm not always right. It's called what it is, guys. I've been wrong. Not often, but it happens. But again, I have enough empathy to push and push and push to try to get you to understand where I'm coming from. Because if you go to someone else, they may not have your best interest in play in their mind, right? So now you're putting yourself in a bad situation. So I have the empathy to understand why you feel the way you feel and why you may feel slighted or hurt or whatever by someone as aggressive as me. And I led to that point of saying as aggressive as me because I'm a very aggressive person. All right. I'm very, I don't want to say forceful with my teachings, but I'm a harder type person, right? The doc is probably going to be softer than I am on certain things, but he'll probably also be harder on certain things, right?
Less
And
aggressive, more assertive.
what's that?
I'd be less aggressive, more assertive.
Less aggressive, more
I
assertive,
was
right?
going to say, you got to see this guy in a coaching session. He makes some people uncomfortable.
Yeah, believe me. so
He
do
gets
I.
defenses up.
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
get
it.
very blunt with it as well, right? So, again, which is really a good reason why we have all three of these personalities and perspectives in this program for you. So I think it's really something new. I haven't really seen this dynamic in other courses out there. I have seen people do stuff together, but I think our dynamic is very, very different. Very, very different. So when we talk about, touching our community, here you're going to have different perspectives on how you can do that and many, many, many different ways with maybe more of an aggressive, maybe more assertive, maybe more passive aggressive. I don't know. We'll kind of walk that path when we get there, but you're going to see a lot of interesting stuff coming out of this program for sure, for sure. What's one of the pause and editing? What's another one of the modules?
Let's see, we talked finance, we talked community and social. We've got mental. We've got self that we haven't talked about, physical.
Are you just trying to talk about like what those are? Like what specifically
No,
about
we're just
them?
kind of just touch on. Some of this stuff might be used in the actual module. Some might be used for marketing.
Right, but is the way he's presenting it correct? Asking like, oh, let's touch on empathy, let's touch on community, like awareness of, etc. Like, is that how you want it to be?
So I think
I'm just more thinking of the structure. Like, I feel like it's kind of like him just let's touch on this, and then you guys describing what it
Well,
is.
because
But I don't know.
We're
if
really going to use this, and again, if you guys disagree, tell me at any point in time. But I think that we can use this as an intro to releasing of the program, right? So we can use this to kind of get out there that, hey, these guys are putting together a program. Here's the kind of stuff they're going to be talking about. We can pull clips, to promote the module, right? So they'll watch us talking about, community awareness, and it'll be a 2-minute clip, and then they'll be able to click the link in the bio to, go to the course, something like that. So this is more towards the course, not necessarily a podcast.
Do you guys think the same way?
Yeah, that's what we were told, right?
I mean, right now I think it's going pretty well.
I think it can go either way at this point, too, right?
Yeah.
I think you still use it as podcast if you.
Yeah, we can use it as both.
Okay.
so I think the safe thing here is it is not a standalone. I mean we're gonna be
Yeah,
we're gonna
exactly.
be doing
Yeah.
more
Right, right.
together. So I don't have any problem with us doing unstructured and kind of touching on a little bit of this because it's going to help us formulate how we want to structure it anyways. I think you have a point, Victoria. It's like, well, what is the structure here? And it's like, well, we have an outline, but we don't have much beyond an
No,
outline.
I
Yeah,
get that.
like
I just didn't want him to keep repeating like, oh, let's talk about the understanding of community or the understanding of this. Like, unless that is what you guys
Right.
discussed, I obviously
Well,
don't know.
here's-
So to
here-
me, it just sounded like,
Here's kind of what I'm.
Little interviewee maybe.
Yeah,
yeah,
it could be. Well,
Yeah.
but it all depends on how we extrapolate the content, right?
Right. Well, that's
Right.
it. How we break it up. If
Yeah,
it's not
so-
coming out as a one big giant.
course.
You're
thing,
probably not
yeah.
like, for example, when we start talking about, let's say we put together a thing for community, right? You probably won't hear me saying, "Hey, what do let me hear your perspective on community." It'll just be them. It might just be a clip of you or a clip of you or a clip of me
gotcha.
talking about our perspective on that, and then click the link in the bio to sign up, whatever, or to learn more, or whatever. Or it might be a lead into an actual video that we structure out, something to that effect. I don't know.
Or there might be only like 1 minute from this that actually.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Wait,
our thing
we
today
didn't-
was just to get in the studio because we've been talking about this for a while,
Yeah.
and it was really just get in here, get some content. Let's see how things play out, and then
It
go.
really
from
was.
there.
I forgot what Shane looked like because I hadn't seen him in so long. So.
I know exactly. We've been talking about this for a while.
One of the things we can do, Dre, if there's something specific you want to speak to or lead into, I think you can kind of. So I think we can share that role a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to just you leading into everything. So I don't know if there's something specific on the topics that we've already covered, or about one of these pillars specifically, or even you could just start talking about anything, and then we can tie it into
Well, yeah,
one
we
of the
can even
pillars.
pick. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's easy.
You notice I'm just so used to always being the one doing the.
Well, you're used to
like,
being the host.
keeping it
Right.
going,
Oh,
right?
Yeah. We sit on that side of the desk all the
Yeah.
time. Trust me.
Yeah, I
I get
know.
So
it.
you guys can just talk about it, lead into it, and he'll just give his input kind
Or
of thing.
you can ask me
If
questions,
there's-
you know?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were on the right track.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we should have looped her in on our conversation earlier. I said we should have probably looped you in on our conversation earlier.
I had no idea what you guys
That was like a 60-second. we didn't have that
Yeah.
much.
Don't feel bad. I got looped in like 5 minutes.
I called him. I'm like, this is what we're doing. I said, okay. What do you want to talk about? Like, from your perspective?
I mean, there's a good episode of Last of Us. I can pull something. Don't worry, but you got to put your book away.
All right. Jeez.
What was the other one? Oh, physical awareness.
Physical, mental.
Physical, mental. Yeah.
self.
All right. So go ahead. I'll let you start.
So we're talking a lot about awareness, and I think the one thing that we haven't touched on yet is my area of expertise, a little mental awareness. Knowing how you're feeling, emotions are a good thing, people. I want you to know that. People are afraid of their emotions. They don't think they're supposed to be sad or frustrated. They think they're supposed to be happy all the time. We're not. That's not good. Positivity, for the sake of positivity, is not a healthy thing. We want you to be positive, we want you to be happy, but it's okay to have a range of emotions, and I think that gets lost a lot when we're thinking about how to do things better. That anger, that frustration, those different emotions that come up. There's millions of different emotions. We usually go to the same three. But that's actually what drives us in business, right? That's what drives us for success. So if you're always happy, what's the motivation to do anything? So I could imagine as you guys are going through this, what are some of those emotions that you feel that help drive you in business?
The ones that help drive me, or the ones that keep me from going insane? Which is it?
More than one thing can be true, so probably they work together.
Yep. Yep.
I love having an impact on people's lives. I truly do. Being able to change somebody's life and alter it for the better just by being a part of their life is a really, really satisfying thing. I had an Instagram reel up on this not too long ago, and I'm not a fitness coach by any means, but I go outside and I work out outdoors every single day for the most part, consistently. Rain or shine, hot or cold, doesn't matter. I'm out there. And I had somebody stop me in the middle of my workout once and said, hey, I just want to say thank you because you've influenced me and motivated me to go sign up for a fitness challenge. And I would have never done that, but I see you here every day, and I don't think you realize how much of an impact you're having on those of us in the neighborhood that continue to see you. And that type of feedback, to me, I don't expect it. I don't ask for it, but to get it out of the blue, that has to be one of the most amazing feelings I can have. So the sense of satisfaction and fulfillment from just influencing somebody positively, to me, is the number one driver that keeps me getting up in the morning.
Yeah, for me, I think my drive changes pretty frequently, right? I have kids, I have a family that I take care of, so of course, having the ability to be financially stable and provide things that I certainly didn't have growing up, not any fault of my mom. She was, financially illiterate as well. She was working 2-3 jobs, doing what she had to do, but mine changes, and so money was certainly a motivator, and it still continues to be in certain aspects. But I think overall, touching on what you said, JB, is that we do touch a lot of people's lives on a regular basis in some ways that we don't even know. And, there's people that have come to me years and years later that I might have had, 30 minutes with, or they may have worked with me for a couple years, and I had no idea what I actually did for them. And they tell me, like, no, you, like, legitimately changed my life. I learned A, B, and C, and I talk about all this stuff always, right? Pretty much every single day, and you just don't know who's really hearing you. Everybody's listening at the moment, but who's really hearing you? Who's taking mental notes or physical notes and then going back later and actually applying it to their personal and professional lives? And when I get those messages randomly on somebody I haven't spoken to for 4 years on Facebook, like, hey, I just opened my own company 2 years ago. I implemented everything that I learned from you, just watching you or hearing you, etc. And, I'm selling right now for some ridiculous amount of money, or, I have financial security. I just bought my own home. I got my loved one, through their addiction, right? It's those moments that kind of fuel me for the next one, right? And it's very hard to explain to somebody what that is. Because I'll tell you, during the pandemic, on your topic with the physical stuff, which I definitely need to start doing again, I used to run a 5K every day. I started getting out of shape, and I started running a 5K every day, and I would just make a post about it, you know? And over probably about 3 months in, I just started getting these messages. You know, you changed my life. I lost 40 pounds. I'm like, wow, I was really doing it more so to hold myself accountable, you know? So that's why I did it. And then when I stopped doing it, I mean, bombarded with messages like, hey, what's going on? Are you good? Like, you know, you were my driving force. Like, can we do this again, etc. So it's really hard to explain what that emotion is, what that feeling is, because like you said, there's millions, but we always fall back to three. You know, it's hard to explain, but that for me certainly is a driving factor. You know, hearing the people, not only that I know I am putting an effort into helping, but the people I had no idea that I did anything for at all to come back and tell me I've helped them change their life.
So it's interesting as I'm sitting over here and we're sitting in a room full of alpha males for the most part. I ask a question about how emotion drives you and your awareness. And neither one of you mentioned an emotion that you were driving towards. You both pushed it on how other people feel about what you're doing. So
Yeah,
it's,
you're right.
it's great.
Is that the sales
You're
guys
right.
in us right there?
Yeah, you're right.
So it's interesting as we're talking on that, and even people that I'm working with close and they know I'm going to do this to them, still didn't see that awareness. So you can imagine how easy it is to miss that awareness of your emotions when you're doing it, and how uncomfortable, even in this kind of setting where we're being open, it is to kind of go to do that authenticity and that, self-divulsion of an emotion attached to those things. So I appreciate that, and I think actually both of your stories were very inspiring and awesome. So I don't want to take away from that. They were great stories, and they did bring some good information.
Just
I
not
just
what
wanted
he
to
asked.
make sure to touch
Yes.
on the fact that we miss emotions a little bit sometimes.
I
in
had
there.
taken note of that. I was sitting here the whole time like, this is not anything to do with their emotions.
But you know what, guys? This is a perfect example, and I'm glad this just happened, right? Because this is a perfect example of why the three of us working together in this program is so fundamental to the success of an individual that buys it, right? Because he's right, and as soon as you started talking, I realized he's absolutely right. But that is number one, the value of having a doc with us, right? But having these three different perspectives, and we're all okay calling each other out, right? When we're slipping out or we don't agree or something of that nature, we have no problem doing that. So thank you, number one, and I'm really glad this happened because I hope one of you watching today realizes what did just happen, and you might be sitting in my seat or his seat or even the doc seat and saying, "Shit, you know what? I can't answer that question without actually sitting back and thinking." And that's where personally I messed up is I didn't really sit back and think, what is the actual emotion,
Yeah.
right? I understand the feeling, right? Or why it makes me feel good about getting those messages and helping those people. But I think I'd probably have to sit back and really take a deep dive into myself, which goes back to self-awareness, right? And understand what these emotions are. Like when I wake up every day, what am I feeling? Am I just so happy? Am I sad? Do I feel like I need, I guess there's a lot that I need to look at personally to identify those actual emotions.
I read somewhere that when somebody asks you how you're feeling, if you can't drill it down to a one-word response, that's not a feeling, right? That's not an emotion. And you and I went off on 2 or 3 minute stories about
Yeah.
inspiration and how we impact people's lives. And Andre is sitting back going, "I just wanted a word."
But he let us go. But he let us go with it.
That's the therapist in him, isn't
That's
it?
why
Yep.
he's the doc. So I have a question for you. Were you always just hyper aware of your emotions or aware of others' emotions, or was that something that you just kind of learned over time? Did you ever had a period of time in you that you were just like the other two men in the room?
Yeah, and I still fall back to that quite a bit because that the self-awareness is the hardest awareness of all of them, right? I mean, a lot of the stuff that I teach, when I go back to myself, I have a difficulty with it, and a lot of us do. But over time, I think I've enhanced that ability to be more aware of myself and of others. And as I talked back earlier about awareness and adaptation, being my strengths, that's what I've kind of grown from it. So from the years in the hospitality world, I was able to see these things and how people were feeling. And, if they're having a good time, that means better business. If they're having a bad time,
Better
not as
tip.
good business, right? And pushing that off to the servers and understanding the bartenders, like you control a lot of their emotions. So the more you could be aware of it, the better off you can be. So there was some of that awareness early, but I've definitely honed that skill over time, and also seeing how important it is to be in touch with that for not only myself and the people that I work with in coaching, and even more importantly in therapy. Uh, that is usually the biggest barrier for healing, is being able to see where you are and being able to accept that and kind of building off of that. And that emotions are good. I always go back to that. Emotions are good. We're taught that they're not, but they are.
I can tell you, I personally was really taught, like, to be a man's man, and like, absolutely. I don't think I shed an actual tear until I was in my 30s. Now, when I was a little kid, obviously, right? But in my adult years as a man, to cry from emotion, I could literally tell you twice in my entire adult life that I've cried. Now, outside of having my kids and stuff of that nature, that's not, we don't count those. That doesn't fair. But realistically, like, to actually shed a tear because of a deep emotion twice in my entire adult life, because I was raised with men don't cry, and you need to tough this, and don't ever let a woman see you cry, don't let kids see you cry. Like, that's how I was raised. And I don't know that I'm going to break that anytime soon, or certainly at this point in my life. But I do agree 100% with you saying that these things were taught, and really understanding your mental awareness and having those emotions. I mean, I know I struggle with it personally. So, it's why we have the doc here. He's certainly going to be talking about this and helping you guys dive deep into your mental awareness and start to explore those emotions. I'll let him talk more about that, obviously. But again, it really speaks to having three different perspectives from three walks of life, three different, professional backgrounds, and what we bring to the table through this whole course.
Shane, you hit it on the head, man. If you think about it, we talked about it already. Financial awareness, how we don't have that education. We don't have emotional awareness education growing up. When we think about awareness and the reason, the why behind what we're doing with this course, the reality is we don't have any formal education on awareness, period.
Yeah.
You name it. It doesn't matter what pillar we're talking about. It could be social, it could be self, it could be mental, it could be physical, whatever it is. Show me where we've learned that awareness and we had formal education around it. And I think that's the benefit of the three of us working together, is you get the three different professional backgrounds that allow us to really bring in unique perspectives, skill sets to really marry into something that we can provide that I don't think other people can provide out there.
I agree, and that's why I said I have not seen a dynamic like this in any other courses. There are certainly people who have come together, but for what we're offering, what we're talking about doing, the type of changes that can be made for an individual that takes this course, that has access to all three of us. There's going to be some opportunities to speak with all three of us at the same time, one-on-one. There'll be some live calls. There's really going to be a lot that encompassed within this whole program that you could take advantage of. So, again, we're going to keep talking about how important it is and how, I would say, impressive it's going to be to have all three perspectives. So if you guys want to, take advantage, shoot me a DM, reach out to JB and Doc. I have the information here as well, but hop in, ask some questions, and let's make it happen. Let's really make it successful. So, all right, JB, where do you want to take this?
It's a good question.
I have a good segue for you.
We have about
Go ahead.
10 minutes.
So we talked a lot about different awarenesses. There's, the emotion one being a key piece. Where we don't realize these emotions also play a big role is our physical awareness, right? So everything is connected. Stress plays a big role, and you start to see this have like an effect on your body. And then we think we're sick. We're going to the hospital. Do you know that it's like 90% of the people that go to the emergency room thinking they're having a heart attack is just really stress?
I was
So
one of
there's
them.
Guilty.
Yep.
So there's a lot of big effect from our lack of physical awareness, not really understanding our body. So I think that's a great topic that we also touch on in this course that gets missed a lot, is physical awareness.
Yeah, and the importance of it.
So Shane, we want to talk a little bit about your idea of physical awareness and where you think of, and I'd love to hear from you too, JB.
For me, exactly what you just said is where I'm at right now, right? COVID impacted my life in ways that I never even thought possible. Not just from a health perspective, because I had COVID 4 times now, okay, all 3 variants, and got sepsis from wearing a mask while having COVID. That wasn't fun. Almost died. Being told that if I left the hospital, I'd be dead in 24 hours to my face was a very humbling experience, you know. But my life has changed drastically, right? And with those added pressures and added stresses, I mean, I was a gym freak. I worked out 5, 6 days a week, weight trained, ran, did everything. I got an injury, which I would normally push through. And I just allowed those pressures to get me where I am today, where personally I feel I'm probably in the worst shape I have been in my life right now. And I'm at that point now. I need to start focusing on that physical awareness and understanding that it does absolutely tie into my day to day, how successful I'm going to be. And, back to what you touched on, success means different things for different people. I'm not talking about just what I have in my bank account, right? That's just monetarily can come and go. I've been up and down many times in my life, and probably I'll be up and down many more times. But success as a individual, as a business owner, and when I say a business owner, I mean the way I work with my staff, my coworkers, success as a father, as a son, all these different areas of life, I measure success differently. And you can't allow it's hard to say you can't allow because it's going to happen, but all those stresses and all those pressures absolutely affect your physical well-being unless you have the self-awareness to put a stop to it and say, okay, regardless of what I'm going on in life, my physical health, my physical presence on how I feel has to be some part of a priority in my life daily. And I allowed that to lapse for quite a while. And I'm just now realizing that and getting back into that mode of things. So,
Doc, to me, this is simple. When we look at brain chemistry, when we look at the science behind this, within 2 weeks of starting to exercise or stopping exercise, our brain chemistry literally changes. How our minds work change. If that's not the direct correlation that you need to recognize that physical is equally as important for what's going on up here and in here, and in what inspires you and what drives you, or just your ability to operate at peak performance, whether it's professionally or with people around you, I think you're just missing the obvious. It's simple. Physical awareness leads to benefits throughout our lives, and they're immeasurable. To ignore the physical, which is really easy to do. And here in the United States, unfortunately, we deal with obesity. We deal with a tremendous amount of people that are overweight. I think it's something like 60+% of the country is at this point overweight. To ignore the idea that there is a direct influence on all other aspects of your life it's I said it before, it's putting your head in the sand. So we have to carry awareness of that. It makes an absolute difference. And it's not just physical exercise. This can go all the way to, hey, how am I feeling from a stress perspective? How is that impacting me? Am I meditating? Am I doing things to manage to the stress side of things? Because just like the physical leads to the mental leads to the physical too. That stress is going to impact me, and it's going to put me in the ER. I'm going to end up in the hospital if I don't take care of one aspect of my body versus the other. It's all interconnected, and to me, that's the crux of this.
Yeah, and I don't think it also means that you need to be walking around with an 8-pack, right?
No, by no means.
Which again, because I wanted to say that because I was always big on.
Nope, not here.
You got to check, right? No, but it doesn't mean you have to do that. I think when we talk about physical, it's taking care of your body. And whatever that means for you and your mental well-being, your physical well-being, that's what it means to you. So, I certainly don't want to get to a point of you comparing yourself to someone else. I know my body needs to look like that if I want to be successful. That's really not what it's about. It's about being aware of your physical body, elements that you should be addressing. If you're having issues with sugar, understanding how to adjust your diet. If exercise is what you need to do, whatever it is for you as an individual, that's what you need to be aware of, right? If you're having high levels of stress and it's causing you physical physical issues, right? Well, then it's something to start addressing and not allowing it long term to fall off.
Well, one size doesn't fit all, right? So we're not all going to be the same. We're all not going to look the same. We're not going to act the same. And we're all not going to portray health the same way. But the awareness also comes to how you present yourself, your confidence, right? So Are you getting enough sleep? Probably the biggest factor into your own physical awareness. If you're going to go on stage, do you get butterflies? If you're aware that you do, then you can prepare for it. Otherwise, you're walking out there and you're going to get nauseous, and that's not a good thing.
I've seen that happen.
So there's a lot of physical awareness that goes just beyond that aspect too that you have to be really aware of. And how do you cope with those things? Do you get hangry when you're hungry? Right, that's a physical reaction that your body's having to something. So if you're going into a business meeting, you probably should stop and grab something to eat. If you eat something certain ways, does it affect you and make you tired? You have to learn all these things about yourself because it's not all the same. We all can't go through the same exact. We can't follow all the same diet. We can't all follow the exact same nutrition because we adjust to those things different. We have different allergies. We have different reactions in our body. So you really have to become aware of yourself and your own physical reactions to these things. And those lead to the bigger picture also.
Sorry.
I think it's actually so impressive how, I just still see like two different levels. Obviously, that's why it's so important that we have all of us together. But even on that one explanation, Shane and JB were kind of talking about like working out and physical activity, and the doc is here like not necessarily that, but triggers to things or how certain things make you feel and preparing for that and avoiding that. Like that is what a therapist does and prepares you for. And I feel like you guys, obviously, I personally think know more than the average population on just success and feelings and everything we're talking about. But the average population thinks exactly how you guys just thought. Take care of your body. All right, you need that 8-pack. That's literally what it is, So it's really great to have your guys' perspective and then also the docs.
Yeah, again, that's why we'll probably mention this. That's probably why we'll mention this hundreds of times on just the dynamic between the three of us and what you're really going to get from this course. I'm telling you guys, what we're offering here is something completely new to the market. I'm not going to try to sit here and give you a 30-second elevator pitch. Watch enough of our content, and you're going to understand why this is so valuable and how it can impact your life daily. And I think that's what really, really important here. There's a lot of courses out there that, I can put together an e-commerce course and teach you how to sell things online, or, mentoring courses. There's 22-year-olds doing life coaching courses right now. Not sure what they're coaching about, but go for it. But these are things that you can learn daily. There's going to be, things that you can apply to your daily life that's going to help you with each module. So we talk about social awareness, financial awareness, physical awareness, mental awareness. There's going to be things that you can do every single day in your life to help you take those next steps in success. So how are we doing on time? You want to add anything?
I think one of the other pluses about this course is, because as I mentioned a few times, one size does not fit all. So you're going to hear three perspectives that are all in alignment but slightly different, right? Because I always say that when anyone reads a book, they read a self-help book and they try to treat it like gospel. It's not. It's just tool. It's a tool that you take parts that make sense for you and you put them into action. So when you have a team like us, you're getting three perspectives that all make sense. They're all in alignment with where they're coming from, but they're going to be slightly different. So you can take pieces from each and adjust it and make it fit into your life in a way that you're not going to get anywhere else. You're going to actually get those three perspectives that all make sense, that all work, and then you adjust it and you make it fit for you, which is the most important thing.
So, guys, listen, if you're interested, success through awareness, Shane Santacroce, JB and the Doc, I'm telling you right now, this is the platform for everybody to get involved with. Like, subscribe, share, follow my two guys. I'm going to have the information in the description below. They have an amazing podcast as well. I was on it with them. Please go check them out. Give them both a follow and a subscribe as well. And if you want to see them back, we're going to have plenty more of this content coming out. We'll probably have them again on the podcast. I might be on theirs again at some point. So I appreciate you guys watching, and let's make it happen.